بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم لا حول ولا قوة الا بالله العلی العظیم الحمد لله رب العالمین و صلی الله علی سیدنا و نبینا ابی القاسم المصطفى محمد و آله الطیبین الطاهرین لا سیما بقیة الله فی الارضین عجل الله تعالی فرجه الشریف. اللهم اخرجنی من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, in the last session we discussed different definitions of nafs, and I think we reached the types of nafs, yeah? Did we discuss the types of nafs also or no? No. So inshallah we continue with the types of nafs, and then we will discuss different faculties of different types of nafs. So again we follow the same book that we introduced last session. So this is the textbook for philosophical psychology based on Ayatollah Fayyaz's lectures. So the first type of nafs is vegetative soul, nafs al-nabati, or in Arabic we should say al-nafs al-nabatiyya. In Farsi we say nafs al-nabati. So vegetative soul, which is defined as كمال أول لجسم طبيعي عالي يتغذى وينمو ويولد. The first perfection for a natural body which is organic, which has nutrition and growth and reproduction. So as these elements. First perfection, we already talked about definition of kamal here. It is not in the sense of ethical or spiritual, it's a sense of existential kamal. So this is the first, because then there can be other things that are built upon this. So this is the first perfection for a natural physical body which is organic. Ali has different organs, and there are three major aspects in philosophers' understanding of vegetative soul. One is nutrition, the second is growth, and the third is reproduction. And they are not separable. So we don't have, for example, something which has nutrition but doesn't grow or doesn't have reproduction. Yeah, it seems that every living being has these three together. If something doesn't have one, doesn't have all. The second is animal soul, which is defined as كمال أول لجسم طبيعي عالي يحس ويتحرك بالإرادة. So the first perfection, again for natural physical object, which is organic, but has two major characteristics. One is it has ability to perceive, to do ihsas, sensation and perception, because perception is more specific for senses than we say understanding. And has voluntary movement. Of course, nafs haywani should have the qualities of vegetative soul. Yeah? So the growth and nutrition and reproduction are also available in animal soul. So animal soul has something extra. Inshallah, we will talk later about the definition. So when we say جسم نام حساس متحرك بالأرض, so means it's already a vegetative soul. Then we have human soul, which is كمال أول لجسم طبيعي عالي يعقل الكليات التصورية والتصديقية ويستنبط الآراء ويفعل الأفعال الفكرية والحدسية. Very beautiful definition, especially I like the part about the last part. So the first perfection for a physical body which is natural and organic, this repeats in all of them. But here, instead of talking about growth and nutrition and reproduction, or about perception and voluntary action, we have something more. Those are there, but we have something more. And that is to be able to conceive general or universal perceptions and affirmations. تصورات, conceptions, or تصدیقات, affirmations. So إدراك كليات. But in addition to understanding universal concepts or universal propositions, can also do reasoning. يستنبط الآراء, is able to do reasoning and from some propositions come up with something else, or from some conceptions come up with something else, because we have two places for reasoning. One is for تصورات, one is for تصدیقات. Yeah? So معرف و حجت. So sometimes reasoning is used to understand conceptions which are not self-evident, sometimes used for understanding propositions which are not self-evident. Plus يفعل الأفكار أفعال الفكرية والحدسية, is able to do some actions, but these are not actions of the body. Actions which are used here and refer to two things: thinking, reasoning, and guessing. The difference between thinking and guessing is that guessing is without working on the things that can act as middle terms, as حد وسط. So someone who has ability to do hats is right from question goes to the answer, from seeing the problem goes to the solution. Maybe later he can also find argument for that, but the mind is so blessed that it's like a revelation. That, of course, proper guessing, not blind guessing. This is guessing that comes with knowledge, not guessing that people do and there is no basis for that. These three types of nafs are agreed upon: vegetative soul, animal soul, human soul. But then we have nafs falaki, which is mostly based on old natural sciences, ulum tabi'iyya, before the empirical ulum tabi'i. They had the idea that there is another soul which is responsible for the motions of the skies, and it has understanding, and it has continuous motion. Continuous understanding, continuous motion, because they never stop. They're always moving in their orbit, in their madar, they're always moving. And they had the idea that this is out of love. This is out of love, and they had the idea that the circular motion is the best motion and can only be based on love. But recent philosophers, they don't believe in this. and there is no evidence for this. So we will focus more on these three: vegetative soul, animal soul, and human soul. Now, for the existence of human soul, we have shorter, journey, because reflecting upon our own nafs, we can understand that we have this ability to think, to reason, to understand universal concepts, etc. But what about the other two types of nafs? Again, for them, it's almost badihi, it's almost self-evident, because we see the results and there must be something responsible for that. So if there is, for example, in us, ability to do sensation, hassasiyya, or have voluntary action, so there must be something responsible for that. So that is nafs haywani. Or for reproduction, growth, etc., there must be something responsible. It cannot be our body, it must be nafs nabati. So it's almost evident, self-evident, that these three types exist. Inshallah, we will have discussion about whether they are immaterial or not. That is another thing. Maybe someone accepts there is nafs, but questions their immateriality or immateriality of some of them. That's possible. Maybe philosophers also disagree. So we move on to the second lesson, and I am very sorry that the second lesson is a little bit difficult, because we have too many terms, too many notions, and there is no other way. We have to study them. But inshallah, they will be very helpful, not only for the rest of this course, but also for studying any book on philosophy. Normally you come across these terms. Yeah. For example, what is wahm, what is khiyal, hiss mushtarak, all these kind of things. So we start with faculties, and inshallah we'll explain what we mean by faculties, of vegetative soul. Yeah? Faculties of vegetative soul. Maybe one of you can also write down so that brothers can better understand, yeah? Yeah. So we start with faculties of vegetative soul. So this is divided into the main faculties or the employing faculties. Mustakhdima means these faculties employ some other faculties that we will talk about them, which are khadima. So they are employing, and the other one is the employed. Khadima we can translate as employed. So the first category, the first type, is asli, main, or mustakhdima, those that employ others. So this is divided into two by itself. One, those faculties which act for the sake of the individual soul, that or being that we are talking about. The second, those faculties which are working for the sake of continuity of this species. Okay? So القوى التي تفعل لأجل شخصها or القوى التي تفعل لأجل بقاء النوع. It's not a matter of this individual continuing. It's a matter of this type of individual, this species should continue. So the one which is responsible for this particular, this individual, specifically, are divided themselves. Okay? So one, al-mughadhiya, those which are responsible for nutrition. القوى التي تفعل لأجل بقاء ذات الشخص. They function for the survival of this individual. Okay? So for example, if some cells are dead, they can replace those cells. Yeah? But this by itself has, again, subtypes. So those which are responsible for nutrition are divided into muhassala, which is producing nectar in plants or blood in animals and human beings. And this nectar or blood is responsible to go around the body of this being and take what they need for nutrition. The second is mulsaqa. This is responsible for taking the nectar or blood into different organs and making it available for them. The third is
the spelling right?
Pardon?
Mulsaqa, how do you spell that?
Mulsaqa, you can say
Like
attaching. Mughayyira is transforming. So, pardon? بله مغيرة. So muhassala, mulsaqa and mughayyira. Mughayyira is transforming. For example, the nectar becomes leaves or branches, etc. Or in human beings, it becomes bones or fat or meat, flesh, etc., skin.
How did we translate muhassala?
Muhassala, you can say that it makes it available, or maybe you can say producing, because it produces nectar or blood. Yeah? So muhassala, maybe we can say producing. And then, in contrast to mughadhiya, we have munmiya or munammiya. Munmiya or munammiya, bab if'al or taf'il. القوة التي تفعل لأجل كمال ذات الشخص, not لأجل بقاء. We said that is for survival. This is for perfection, better quality. So this is responsible for growth. For example, you have a sapling of apple tree. This becomes a fully grown tree. Or a baby becomes a child and a teenager and a young person, etc. So these are all for the faculties which are responsible for this individual. Opposite to this, we said those that are responsible for baqa, no, for the continuity of this life, for the species. So this is divided into two: muvallida and musawwira. Muvallida is reproducing, so takes part of the nutrients which are available, which are used for the survival or growth. Part of it is taken by this faculty for producing organs and things that are needed for reproduction. Okay? For example, creating worms in the female animals or female human beings. And the second is musawwira, gives form. And this uses the material which is in the reproductive parts of the body or organs, gives them form so that they can become another individual of the same type. Is it clear now? Maybe you can show them so that those who are watching can see. I hope they can. Maybe you can explain.
Faculties of vegetable souls, they are two branches.
Vegetative, yeah?
Vegetative soul.
Yeah.
So, employing and employed. Employing are themselves two kinds. The soul that is responsible for individual continuity and for continuity of a species.
Mm.
The first one
Is divided.
into two groups, مغذية منوية and مغذي.
مغذية.
مغذية منوية. And مغذية is three types. محصلة, ملصقة and مغيرة.
Yes,
And
exactly.
the second is منوية. That of for continuity of the species is two kinds, مولدة and مسافر.
Exactly. أحسن. So these are all the main faculties or mustakhdama, employing. They employ some other faculties. Now we want to go to the faculties which are employed and they serve. Okay? So قوای خادمه یا طبیعی, they are natural faculties or they are employed, they serve. They are not for vegetative soul because of being vegetative soul. They are like part of the natural being's qualities. Therefore they call them قوای طبیعی, natural faculties. They are divided, for example, if you are talking about قوه مغذیه, the one which is responsible for nutrition, this uses four natural faculties or four serving or employed faculties. One is قوه جاذبه. This is the faculty that absorbs. Okay? For example, for the plant, we need something that can absorb water and necessary chemicals from the soil. Or for example, human beings or animals with the ability that they get through this qawwa, they can swallow the food. Okay, this is the way for them to get the food. Then we have qawwa maseke, which is responsible for holding the food or the water or chemicals. It holds. And then we have qawwa hazime, which is responsible for digestion. So the food which is held by qawwa maseke is now being digested by qawwa hazime. And make sure that, for example, it becomes a nectar or blood and goes everywhere. And the third is qawwa dafi'ah. And this is responsible for making sure that the unwanted chemicals or unhealthy things or poisons are sent away. Okay? Like a factory that at the end you have to have a way to get rid of the rubbish, unnecessary things or waste, etc. How did they come to this kind of classification? It's based mainly on observing, and they try to observe different things that happen in animals and plants and human beings and come up with the faculties which are responsible for them. So this was for vegetative soul. Now we go to animal soul. Again, we have the main faculties which employ mustakhdeme, and those which are not main and they are employed, they serve. So if we go for, pardon, do you want to show them or you want to take picture? Yes. Inshallah, we will send you also the picture of the chart.
So how did you translate دافعه?
Dafa means you can say is responsible for repulsion or removes the waste and poison and unnecessary things. But maybe there is a better term to use. What do you think?
I haven't thought about it, but I think there must be a term to describe how factories and companies
Yeah.
dump their waste.
Yes.
Maybe we can look up into it.
But we don't have to translate because these are originally Greek words, I think. So if we find the original or the English translations of the Aristotle's Greek.
Yes.
so
This dafa is different from defending or repelling against something. It means to get rid of waste and poison and dirty things. Okay, so for animal soul, the first type is the main faculties, or again employing ones. So they are divided into قوای علامه and قوای عماله. علامه and عماله. The first, as you can guess, is coming from ilm, so they are responsible for understanding, but we will explain how. But the second is responsible for action, عماله, from amal. So allame are the faculties for understanding, for perception, for sensation, and it's divided into two groups: حواس ظاهریه and حواس باطنیه. So we have some external or outward or kind of physical senses, which are the famous 5 senses: for seeing, for hearing, smelling, touching, and tasting. For example, when it comes to touching, Ibn Sina was saying that this by itself works in different ways. Sometimes it is for understanding temperature. By your touching ability, you can understand whether something is cold or hot. It is also for understanding whether something is wet or dry. It also helps with understanding whether something is hard or soft, or it's, something, like this. But then حواس باطنی, the inner senses that we have, are divided into 5 again. One is حس مشترک, common sense, but not common sense, meaning common sense among people. Sometimes we say what common sense is. This is common sense, means an inner sense which is responsible for having different senses, all the 5 senses, input together. Okay? So what you get through your eyes, your ear, your, nose, etc., all of them come to حس مشترک. Then we have khayal, which here means the faculty which is responsible for restoration of particular images that we have got through our 5 senses. Okay? So in Hiss Mushtarak, it's like, for example, in the offices, we have secretariat that receives all the letters, communications, but they have the archive. Yeah? So archive is different from Dabir Khane, from the secretariat. And then the third is Wahime. And this is the one that Sheikh Muzaffar al-Mantiq explains. This is responsible for understanding meanings which are particular, like love or hatred that an animal can sense. We are not talking about kulli, not universal. For example, a mother animal has a sensation of love towards her child. Yeah, a mouse, when sees the cat, runs away, has a sense of dislike or a sense of fear. These are juz'i, these are particular, these are not kulli, these are not universal. If you ask the mouse, do you mice always, for example, have this kind of feeling, etc.? Says, I don't know what you mean by always and this kind of things. Yeah, but when they see it triggered, but there is no general knowledge. Yeah, sometimes in my lecture said cats don't have mousology, so that they study and then build upon experiences. So every generation starts from the same and ends with the same. Yeah, they don't build upon it because there is no kulli. At least this is the way we think, based on our understanding of animals. The fourth is hafize or memory. But what is the difference between this and khayal? This is responsible for restoration of these particular meanings understood by wahime.
So khiyal is the archive for the Mushtarak.
Yes.
Hafiza is restoration for understanding particular.
Exactly. And then we have mutakhayyala. This is different from khayal. Or mutasarrafa. This is the one that is mixing, combining, and sometimes comes up with the things that they never exist. For example, you can have image of a person with 7 heads. Who is making this? Mutakhayyala. It manipulates and mixes them, creates different things. And this is also sometimes at work when we have dreams. Yeah?
Sort of combining particulars.
Yes. The last one? متخيل, yeah. Combines and, yeah, mixes. Yes. Sometimes maybe analyzes them. For example, instead of having a human being with 7 heads, you have a human being with half head. It can also cut. Does, Photoshop. Then we have opposite to allame, ammale, okay, which are called also muharraka. They are responsible for moving the animal. They are divided into, again, 2 types. One is ba'itha or shawqiyah. What does ba'itha mean? Ba'ath means to push, to raise something, to do something, yeah? So this is responsible for motivating the animal to do something. And this has 2 types by itself. قوة شهوية, the faculty which is responsible for the appetites, and قوة غضبية, the faculty is responsible for anger. What's the function? Shahawiyya moves towards something which is pleasant. Ghadabiyya pushes to protect yourself against something which is not pleasant. Okay? Either you run away or you push that thing away or you try to get rid of it. And then, in contrast to ba'itha, because ba'itha is divided into shahawiyya and ghadabiyya. In contrast to that, we have amila. So after ba'itha does its job, now is the turn for amila. Amila is the agent, is acting. So this is responsible through maybe movement of the muscles to make us do something. Or to enable us to do something. So all these are the main or employing faculties for animal soul. قوای اصلی or mustakhdeme are these. Okay? You can take a picture and we share with the brothers and sisters online. As I said, I am sorry today a little bit boring because we have lots of definitions and classifications, but inshallah then you find them useful in coming lectures and in other books also. We are putting everything on the board and then share with you the pictures, inshallah. For the faculties which are employed or serve, we call them khadimah. Alhamdulillah, it's not too difficult now because everything that we said for vegetative soul now has become serving the faculties that we mentioned for vegetative. So vegetative soul has every faculties of the, animal soul has every faculty of the vegetative soul, which were themselves divided into mustakhdama and khadima. Both now become khadima for these ones that we mentioned. Okay? This is why we say an animal is jismun namin hassasun mutaharrikun bil irada. So jismun namin is the definition of vegetative, beings. Therefore, they have something extra. It's like one floor is vegetative, then second floor is the ones that we mentioned, and both first and second floor together make animal soul. It's not that animal soul is just the second floor, because animal soul needs the first floor as well. And now we go to faculties of human soul. So again, we have main faculties, or mustakhdama, the employing ones, and khadima. Everything that we said for animal soul becomes khadima for human soul. Okay? So what is new is mustakhdama, the main ones for human soul. So again, this is divided into allama, and ammala. Allama is responsible for that kind of understanding which is only in human beings, something extra to what is in animals. Yeah? He said in animal we have understanding of individual concepts, but we don't have in them universal concept, we don't have reasoning in them, etc. So, قوة علامة from ilm, the one which is responsible for understanding, is what is also called aql nazari, theoretical intellect. Every science that human beings have developed, every understanding, every reasoning, all are because of this aspect of nafs. It is also interesting to know that whether it is theoretical wisdom or practical wisdom, hikmat al-nazari or hikmat al-amali, they are understood by aql al-nazari. Because the way that philosophers understood hikmah means they divided knowledge into hikmat al-nazari and hikmat al-amaliya. For example, philosophy, mathematics, theology, these are hikmat al-nazari. Or ethics, economy, and house management, they were hikmat al-amali. But all of them are understood by aql al-nazari, by theoretical intellect. Okay? But then ammala is the same as practical intellect, aql amali, not hikmat amali. Hikmat amali is understood by aql nazari, but aql amali is responsible for our actions, something which is above animals. For example, ithar, you give priority to another human being in using what you have. You need that, but you give to others. You prefer others to yourself. This is through qawwiyya ammal. Or ikhlas, sincerity, or conscious ibadah, worship. These are the things that we do with qawwiyya ammal. And he says, when we say this is aql amali, this is a kind of just terminology, because it's not really aql, it's under aql. This is that side of nafs which is responsible for our actions, but they call it aql amali. Otherwise, aql is more for understanding, and this is more for action under the guidance of aql. For aql nazari, what we had in Bidayah also, and some other books, they have these levels. They say first is aql hayulani, which is completely potential. This is the intellect before understanding anything. Because hayula is also the name for madde ula, which is 100% potential. It has no actuality. Then we have aql bil malaka, which is intellect when understands self-evident things, badihiyat. Then we have aql bil fi'l, which is able to understand also some of the nazariyat, some of the things that need reasoning, some of the things which are not self-evident, some of the things which are in need of speculation. And then aql mustafad. Aql mustafad is the intellect that has understood everything, all badihiyat and nazariyat, and this is when you become similar to the external world. Sayruratul insan alaman aqliyan or aqlaniyan muzahiyan lil alam al aini. This was according to Mashaun, the perfection, that you have knowledge of everything. So aql hayulani, aql bil malaka, aql bil fi'l, aql mustafad. You can use also this for different disciplines. For example, someone is learning for the first time Arabic language. So first, he doesn't have any knowledge, is hayulani. Then he understands the very basic ones. Then he understands more nazari one. Then he understands everything. If someone can understand everything, will be aql mustafad. Something that maybe is the most interesting part of this discussion today is different levels for aql amali, for practical intellect. This is very interesting discussion. So we talk maratib aql nazari are 4. Aql hayulani, aql bil malaka, aql bil fi'l, aql mustafad. Now, what are different levels of aql amali? Again, here they mention 4. In some of their lectures on spirituality, I have mentioned some of these. The first is tajliya. Although in some places maybe they mention takhliya first, but here is a tajliya from jala, means to polish, to enlighten. تحذيب الظاهر باستعمال الشرائع وبامتثال الأوامر والنواهي الشرعية. You purify your zahir, your outward appearance. Still, we are not talking about heart purification of the. At least on the surface, you don't do anything haram. You don't do anything wrong. You observe obligations and you observe prohibitions of Sharia. This is one level of purification that polishes you. The second is takhliya, evacuation. To remove from your batin, not from appearance or outward, from your inner self, from your heart, you remove bad traits of character or vicious traits of character. So in the first one, you say, for example, you don't tell lies, you don't, commit ghaiba. In the second, you say, you remove jealousy from your heart, or you remove miserliness from your heart. Yes, evacuation. Or emptying, you can say emptying or evacuation.
Can we say that takhliya comes first before takhliya, or they should be in order, in this order?
If you mean by takhliya to get rid of bad traits of character is more difficult, so therefore they say first tajliya. But if you mean by takhliya both stopping haram and vicious traits of character, that comes first. Then we have tahliya. Tahliya means to decorate. From haliya, to decorate, to beautify. What does it mean? It means that you try now to acquire virtuous qualities, like being selfless, being loyal, etc. After these tajliya, takhliya, and tahliya, the fourth is fana, self-annihilation. But what they mean by fana is not to, for example, disappear, or, for example, not to exist. No. They mean by not looking at yourself, not to be busy with yourself. بأن يفنى عن رؤية نفسه بل ما سواه تعالى. You don't see yourself or anything other than Allah. So you will be totally focused on Allah. This is the meaning of fana. So you may see me again the same person. It's not that my body is going to disappear or is going to be half, for example, or I'm going to become very thin. It's more how I am looking at myself and other things. If in myself and other things I only see Allah, this is fana. And then fana itself has different levels. Okay, so fana is the fourth level of aql amali, but by itself is divided into other levels, which are three. Number one, mahv. Mahv or tawheed af'ali. Some of you took part in the courses we had on Irfan. We said in Irfan, tawheed is again tawheed af'ali, sifati and zati, but the order is different from kalam. In kalam, first is tawheed zati, and then tawheed sifati, and then tawheed af'ali. But in Irfan is the other way around. Yeah. So here, the first type level of fana is tawheed af'ali or mahv. What is tawheed af'ali? بأن يرى كل فعل فعله تعالى. He sees every action an action of God. His action, others' action is an action of God. Okay? Second is tams or tawheed sifati. بأن يرى كل وصف وكمال وصفه وكماله تعالى. If there is any knowledge, he doesn't say this knowledge comes from Allah. He says no, this is divine knowledge. If there is any beauty, it's beauty of Allah. Okay? Every power is power of Allah. The third is mahq or tawheed zati. Tawheed zati is that after seeing every action and action of God, after seeing every attribute of God, or every perfection of God, then the third is بأن لا يرى شيئا سواه. He does not see anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He reaches the point that for him everything is appearing to be manifestation of God. So these are different levels of aql amali. So this was quwaya asli or mustakhdima for human soul. Again we have quwaya khadime, the one which are employed or serving, which are everything that we said in animal soul. So all the faculties of animal soul are at the service of these main faculties of human soul, which are allame and ammale. Do you have a question? So, inshallah, in the next session, we will have very important discussion, and that is about immateriality of the soul. We will see what type of soul is immaterial and what are the arguments for that. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now Mr. Zuhdi can